Hey guys, welcome to Geometry Today. So we're going to start this semester off talking similar figures. Now this is an idea that we've looked at a lot before. And one way that we've looked at it before is that we've looked at the idea of proportions. Proportions is another way to kind of talk about ratios, something we're going to work through. All right, so here's your first warm-up for the week. All right, here we are. Just some proportion practice, right? Remember, cross multiply, solve for x. And we'll go over each one of these individually. I'm going to ask that you pause and allow yourself time to work through these problems. So the first one, right, when we go to cross multiply, it is just cross multiplying. All right, so we get 12 times 10 equals 11 times 3x. So when we go out and do this, we get 120 equals 33x. Divide by 33 on both sides. All right, and you get a decimal that would come out there. So 120 divided by 33 is nothing that's too complicated for you guys. 120 divided by 33. And we come up with x equals 3.63 repeating. All right, so that's kind of our first answer here. It's nice, straightforward, simple. All right, next one. Again, it's going to be that same idea of cross multiplying here. Okay, so when we go to cross multiply here, what we're going to see is we're going to see this idea of that distributive property when we distribute our numbers out. So we go 5 and this 2. So big thing here is just kind of going forward and distributing. So we get 2n minus 14. Pay attention to the signs on something like this, because it is important, right? So we get 5n minus 10. All right, so pretty straightforward. Subtract 3n from both sides. Negative 14 equals 2n minus 10. Add 10. Add 10. Negative 4 equals 2n. Divide by 2. N equals negative 2. All right, so again, pretty straightforward on those proportions. You guys should know that. You should have that down. Not too difficult for you. Next, all right, we're going to take a look at kind of these similar figures, and we need to make a decision on if these figures are similar. Now, similar figures, because we haven't really covered it just yet, are taking things and making sure that they're in a proper perspective or ratio of one another. So what I love to do is I love to mark up things. So I want to find my corresponding sides. Much like triangles, they're congruent if the corresponding parts are congruent. These are similar if the corresponding parts fall in the same ratio. So first things first, I want to highlight each corresponding side. So since these are both the bottom, I want to highlight both of those. Excuse me. And that can serve as our first ratio, our first proportion here. Next, I want to highlight my other corresponding sides, and I want to get those taken care of. And I'm going to set that equal to 18 over 24. One thing to be careful of is to make sure that you guys are following the same idea here and keeping, the same corresponding sides either across the top or on top, one on top of the other here. So another way to write this would be x plus 1 over equals 12 over, and we could put a 18 here and a 24 here, and it would come out to the same thing. You'd get the same exact thing. All right, so when we do this, it's that distributive property again. All right, equals 12 times 18, 24x plus 24 equals 216. Subtract 24 from both sides. 24x equals 192. X equals 8. So now that you have solved that, plug it back in. All right, and that would be a 9 there, and we can tell if these things are similar because this is 1/2 of it and this is 1/2 of it. So we know that the proportion, the ratio there is all the same. All right, the last one is just the simple multi-step equation here. Distribute, pay attention to your signs. All right, so negative 4x minus 4 plus 6 equals 34 minus 8x. First things first, let's combine our like terms. Those are the only two like terms that we have. I wanted to make those blue. Sorry. All right, so we get a negative 4x plus 2 equals 34 minus 8x. Now, a couple different options you can do here. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Left with negative 4x equals 32 minus 8x. Add 8 to both sides, 8x to both sides. And you're left with 4x equals 32. Now when we divide that by 4, x equals 8 once again. All right, just simple multi-step equation. You guys can work through those. I know you can. So the big idea here is that we need to make sure that the corresponding side lengths are similar. And that means they're an equal ratio of each other. So if we took PS, it's an equal ratio to KN. So it's an equal ratio around all the sides to KN. All right, so if we put like a number on there like 1 for KN and 2 for PS, all right, then KL would have to be 0.3 and PQ would have to be 0.6. And we work our way around that way. So that's the big idea here. When we start to kind of look at that, what it really means is that if they have similar lengths are proportional to each other, meaning that the proportion equals out. So this one, first we have to identify if they're similar figures, and that's kind of difficult to do here. But what we can do is we can start to kind of look at the actual numbers and realize that without solving for the angles that we can, because 5 is half of 10, and we'd do that by basically, I love highlighting again. So there's my green, 5 over 10. And we'll do purple, and we'll choose that bottom one. All right, 14 and 7. So we go equals 7 over 14. Now if we cross multiply this out, it will come to 70 equals 70. So we know that the proportion is equal. And we can also say that this is 1/2 of this whole one here, because all of the numbers are 1/2 of that actual one, and that would be the ratio scale. So when we look at this, we already know that this is not similar. If you take a look and carefully look at it, you'll notice that 88 degrees here, all right, when we have 90 in all 4 corners, if the degree measure is actually different as well, the two things cannot be similar. All right. I didn't like doing this one earlier, so we're not going to do it now. And with this one, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of give this a shot, and we're going to see if these two figures are similar. So this one gets a little difficult because, well, our long side in this one is 4. So let's make sure that we get the corresponding sides, right? And that's where this kind of comes in, because, the long side here, if we rotate this, is actually going to be here on the 4. All right, and then we'll make that 3. Whoops. That 3 right here, and that 4. The 4 and the 3 there. So if we set this equal to each other, the 3 over the 4, and we set it equal to the 4 over 6, and we start to just even cross multiply, we're going to come with 16 equals 18. So we know that this is not similar. I don't know what happened there, but we can just kind of put not similar, all right? There's no proportion there, so we automatically know this is not similar, all right? When we look at this one, right, there's a couple distractors on here, right? First and foremost, the y. How do we know? I like to look at these parallel lines here and realize, okay, well, if these lines are saying that they're parallel with that one bar still, I'm going to take that to mean that they're all parallel, and that the 2 bars is also parallel. So what I need to do is I need to work on my sides. So I got to find my corresponding sides. First and foremost here is that x, that 12, and that is our 18. All right, those are our corresponding sides. We put 12 over 18. All right, and some of you guys may pick up on this right away and not need to spend a lot of time on this. So I want to make sure that you guys kind of get this down still. And we're going to set that equal to x plus 4 over 22. So what is x that keeps this into proportion? So we need to kind of solve for this and decide. They look similar right now, but we don't know what x is. So let's make sure we figure it out. 12 times 22 when we cross multiply is 264. And that's going to equal 18x plus 4. All right, so we distribute that 18 out. 264 equals 18x. 18 times 4 is 72. All right, subtract 72 from both sides. 18x equals 264 minus 72 equals 192. So we divide that by 18, and we're left with x equals 10.6667 repeating. So we'll call it, all right? So when we go back and look at this, we'll say that 14 is there. So if we go just basically 14 over 14.67 over 12, right, is equal to 22 over 18. So we cross multiply that 14.67. Now that's a rounded number, so this may not be exact. All right, we may have to round again. We get 264.06 equals 12 times 22 equals 264. So in theory, yes, these are similar, even though they're not exact based on